Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand, owner of the company Horns of Odin. And today, unfortunately, Matthias isn't with us. He had a snow emergency. Basically, I think a snowstorm hit him, or where he's about to be, he has to set off early. It's a whole kind of last minute thing. Unfortunately, can't make it today. But I'm joined by the awesome Benny Bråten. Everybody loved the last episode you did with us. So do you want to give a quick little overview of who you are?
Yeah, I'm Benny, as you said. I live in Norway, born and raised here. I've been doing music most of my life, and for the last, what is it now, a bit more than 20 years, I've been in this so-called Viking scene.
Mm-hmm.
And 15 years ago, I gave birth to a baby called Folket bortafor Nordavind, and this year we released the second album. And then people go, oh, that takes a long time, but we've been doing music for a long time. So, in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was incredibly important for me, or very, very important for me, to release records. And now it's not the most important anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy. It's a pleasure to do this folky thing with all its challenges and gifts.
Good.
So I'm very happy for it, and I'm grateful that people want to listen to it and know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone that hasn't listened to the first episode with you, I suggest you pause this right now and go and listen to that one first. And then, because in that one, we speak quite heavily of Midgardsblot, and we go off on a bunch of different tangents, because you are obviously the man who does, or at least one of the main practitioners of the ritual of Midgardsblot. So we spoke heavily about that, and we didn't really get to the music too much. I think we had to cut it off as we just started getting to it. We promised to have you back on.
Yeah. No, we managed to touch it briefly at the very end there. But,
I think we when the conversation starts flowing, we start going off on tangents.
Yeah. So, but I got a question before this for the Patreons, actually. Is it okay if we go deep today? And now I'm looking to see if somebody's responding on the chat.
Yes. Lee says C.
Yeah.
Because he knows how to rhyme.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
No, Jimmy says hell yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we can always go deep. It's a lot of fun. I especially when it's one-on-one as well. I think it's a different level as well. Obviously the three-way conversations are amazing, but when it's one-on-one, especially when you start going to those kind of deeper corners, they really are enjoyable and very vulnerable, I think. But before we start that, I do want to just say, obviously, you reference Patreon. I do want to give a shout out to that, because anybody most people listen to this, if you do want to watch the show live, also join in the chat that we kind of referenced throughout. And also, we're adding a new bonus show where when we have a guest on, we're going to do the main show. After the main show, we're going to do a 30-minute Q&A that's going to be Patreon exclusive. That will go onto Patreon. You'll get the chance to kind of ask the guests whatever questions you want, either through the live chat or you can pre-submit them. They're going to go onto Patreon exclusive. So yeah, just if you do get a chance, have a look over on Patreon. I think the lowest tier is £4 a month. It's literally the price of buying me and Matthias a coffee, and it does help us grow the show, particularly in the new year. We've got a lot of new ideas to get everything back on track and tightened up and stick to schedules. We're really excited about what's coming. So this is we're going to test it out with you, Benny. We're going to test the new Q&A kind of bonus episode, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm happily your guinea pig.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I mean, because Matthias isn't here, I decided today I'm going to drink red wine. A Snoop Dogg red wine, may I add.
Hey, Snoop Lion.
Yeah, Snoop Lion. Do you remember that?
Oh,
when he went reggae and changed from Snoop Dogg to Snoop Lion.
Yeah, I love that film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. So I got a nice little red wine. Yeah. Should we
I want
start?
to, can I say something first about Matthias not being here?
Mhm.
Because I wrote to your Patreon people and those of you that watch this later, I wrote to Daniel and I said, so are you ready for later? And he said, oh, I was just going to text you, and then sent me a screenshot of a message from Matthias that he's got these snow issues and he can't be a part of it. And then I think you went into this doubt and I'm not good enough kind of thing. Yeah,
I think it's because me and Mateus have done this for so long together, and particularly, he is the educational one. He very much is the academic mind, and just on the back of that, me and Mateus have been talking kind of together, and we want to start taking the podcast back in that educational heavy avenue. I think we've wandered from that a little bit and really getting that educational material in there. So I do get a little bit nervous when he's not around.
Then I want to share a story, if it's okay.
Of course.
The first solo concert I ever played with Origami Galactica, my deep ambient thing that I've been doing since 94. The first solo show I ever did was in Lille in France. Mm-hmm. And the reason for this was that me and a friend, we were touring in Europe, and a couple of people came to see us a couple of times on that tour, and they asked, they said they were organizing a tour a couple of months later and asked if we wanted to be a part of that tour. And we both said yes. And then when I think it was 2 weeks left till the second tour was starting, my buddy said, hey, Benny, I can't do it because I'm going to lose too much money not being at work. And then I thought, well, I said I was going to be there, so I'm going to be there. Mm-hmm. So I did my first solo show because of that. And if I didn't do that, I would not have toured the States. I would not have toured 3 times in Canada. There's a whole lot of things I wouldn't do. I would probably not be standing like I'm doing in front of Folka either, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was just necessity. I had given my word, and I didn't want to break it, I just wanted to share that one, because
sometimes you have to do the things that take you out of your comfort zone. I guess my worry is I'm doing a disservice to the listeners or the patrons if Mateus isn't here, and they'll see me rock up on my own and be like, oh, it's like that little disappointment. That's my concern.
Yeah, I agree with Jimmy. No.
Yeah,
nothing bad
paid
about
him to say
Matthias.
that.
Hey, Jimmy loves you.
Yeah. No, obviously, we are a team, and I love doing this with Mateus. But sometimes, he's extremely busy, and sometimes things come up. And I am a lot more comfortable doing them kind of one-on-one, especially with you. There wasn't really much hesitation because I know we have good conversations. I know you're a talker. We very much do. But sometimes we get guests, and I'm not going to name any, but sometimes you get them, and it's really hard to pull conversation from them. And having Mateus there with that very kind of scholarly educational background, he can so easily step in and put information and go off on one of his 5-minute rants, and then we'll drive us onto a new topic that keeps the conversation going.
Yeah, but I think, EVOP, everything works out perfectly. So
I've got my Snoop Dogg red wine. We're going to be fine. We're going to be just fine. This is not an advertisement for it. It is quite nice, though.
Yeah. Maybe I should try it if we get it here. I don't know. I don't drink much, but
yeah, you should. Okay, let's start with.
Yeah, I thought because I got a question. If I could look more into on the last episode we spoke a little bit about this song called Kråkevisa, the crow song, and I mentioned that it's known or that there are more than 100 different versions of the lyrics on more than 70 different melodies, and then I got a question if I could look a little bit more into that, and then I thought, yeah, of course, so I did. And there wasn't really much interesting to find out. Many people think this is a medieval song. But from what I could find out, the first written version of this one And this is a song, as I said the last time, everybody in Norway knows it because you sing it in school, or at least you used to do it. So everybody in Norway knows this song. But it's known in all of Scandinavia and the Faroe Islands, I think.
Okay.
And from what I could find out, the oldest written version of it is a Danish one from 1640. But then it's about a doe or a pigeon, but the same story. And there's also one version I've heard about that I haven't found where it's a man and not a crow. But the song starts with a guy, he's going out in the forest to catch wood, and then there's this enormously big crow there. So he's scared and he turns the horse around and he goes home, and then his wife or whoever he was going to bring the wood till is making fun of him. But then they end up killing the crow, and they use everything from the crow, the eyes, they make windows, the beak, they make a boat, and the feathers, they make roofs for all the buildings and all this kind of stuff. But apart from that, I couldn't really find anything very interesting about it. So I thought I think the question was to get some kind of historical something in here. And then I thought, when Folke started and Skvalder that we had before Folke, we were playing the markets. We still do with Folke, the Viking markets. And then now we do some of our own songs sometimes. But that's a different setting than the Midgardsblod thing, when we're doing concerts. I mean, this is street performance, basically, We're standing there unplugged, no lights, no microphone, no nothing. And you're there to entertain. So we were doing whatever songs we managed to learn.
I feel like that would be more scary. Just stood kind of in a market without the microphone, without the stage, without all that kind of everything behind you. That must be more scary than having. I don't know. In
the first, especially with Skvalder, it was really scary. You were standing there and you were like, well, I'm not a good drummer. I cannot sing. Here I am with the drum and the voice. And there are people in front of me. Oops. That was really scary. I remember one time in Iceland, they wanted us to walk around in Reykjavik and make commercials for the market. And all those Skvalder, I think we were, the lineup we were them. I think we were all so nervous. We were struggling to walk. I remember
really?
We walked into a street where there was nobody, and then the sound was loud because there was nobody there.
Yeah.
But you learn from that kind of stuff, Standing, two of us were brought to some kind of a mall shopping center to hand out flyers for the market, and we were supposed to make music. You think we felt cool? Oh man, that was scary. That was really scary, man. But you learn from it.
Of course. Well, life's just one big learning journey, isn't it? All the experiences that scare us. Going back to what we said earlier, just the first time I did this without Matthias, I was petrified. And then you do it and you get through it, and then you're like, "Oh, wasn't that bad? I managed." No. And then the next time it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And I think that's just a lesson for everybody. Okay, before we go too far away from the crow song.
Yeah, but that was the thing, because one of the challenges with doing so-called historical music, is first of all, do we know that this stuff is historical? Well, quite often we don't. And a lot of people believe that many things are very old, and it's not actually that old. Like the Kråvik lyre that has been made very famous with Einar from Vardruna, the lyre that he's using the most. A lot of people want this to be a Viking instrument.
Of course,
it's not. Most likely, it's from 1600 something, which is quite far after the Viking times.
Oh, absolutely.
But that makes this instrument more interesting because they didn't make those kind of lyres anymore. And for some reason they did in Norway, or at least this one, so that makes it more interesting, but it takes it away from the Viking setting, But
I think that it's so tough with this genre of music because it does so quickly get labeled as Viking music. I think anything that has that sound is automatically labeled Viking music, but yet there doesn't seem to be anything that we know of music-wise, instrument-wise, to concretely say this is actually a quote-unquote Viking song.
And Einar has never said it. None of us have ever said it. With Folke, and Skvalder also, he said the direct opposite actually many times. We've said we don't claim to play Viking music, but we don't use any material that they didn't have access to. Meaning,
so what do you think? So what do you think the reason is that everybody goes to that it's Viking music? Do you think it's because you all look a certain way, or do you think it's because you all kind of, for the most part, come from Scandinavia, or is it the sound, or maybe an accumulation of it all, or because you were playing Viking markings?
Obviously, that one, obviously, because also, I mean, those that have been booking us for markets through the years, they want Viking music, of course. It comes also from that. But I'm thinking nowadays it's. Sorry if I'm stepping on toes here, but I mean, it has turned into a big fashion, This whole thing, everything Viking is now, it's hip. So
absolutely.
I'm thinking that also. Now there is also a lot of people knowing that, well, if we label it Viking, it'll sell.
It's a very good point. And, of course I know better than most. I have a business that deals with this kind of stuff, and of course there is stuff that I actually had a comment on one of our adverts the other day. Was it's like a mead advert, and it was like, just put a Viking label on some mead and it'll sell. And obviously, I'm a bit I get defensive. We work with a small meadery, and he exclusively supplies to us, and we made the labels for it because we're a Nordic style brand. But then it got me thinking, it's kind of it probably does. If particularly to people we're advertising to, if we had a Loki's mead, a Thor's mead, whatever, versus just a plain mead, and it could be the same product in both, but one's got the fancy Nordic mythology name and one's plain. I bet 99% of people are buying the Viking one. I bet I'd go as far to say you could have the same mead in both bottles. The Nordic kind of styled one could be £2-3 more expensive than the other one, and I still bet everybody goes for the one with the cool name.
Yeah, you're probably right about it. So. But should we try to get back to the market business, maybe, for a little bit?
Well, I just wanted to, before we go back to that, you mentioned the I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, so I'm just going to call it the Crow song.
Yeah.
It had 100. You say it had 100 different melodies.
I can go back to that, because when I was reading about it yesterday, one place I think they pushed it as far as 140 different texts on more than 100 melodies.
So how would you know that it's the same song? Is it the context of it?
Yeah, I think it's the theme, and that it's. The lyrics are more or less the same. It's a different dialect, slightly different stuff in the lyrics, but mainly, the theme of it is the same. One interesting thing about it is that even though it might be from, the first written version that I managed to find out about, they say was from 1640, but it was still a time when if you slaughtered an animal, you used the whole animal. And that they do in this song. And the last verse, I think it's the last verse, they're saying that if you don't manage to use the crow in this way, you don't deserve to catch the crow.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a strong moral in there, kind of. If you kill an animal, you should use every part of it. You shouldn't leave nowadays when hunters go hunting, they leave the hide in the forest because it's too much work to fix the hide. So I've told the hunters on the hill that we live, don't throw a hide without asking me. Don't throw the bones without asking me. So now I get text messages every once in a while, or a picture. Do you want this?
Yeah, of course. Like I believe wholeheartedly in that as well, and it feels like a very kind of almost a Native American mindset. That's that kind of like we're very one with the earth and using everything. And I come across that a lot when people question me about the horns that we use. It's something that I've come up time and time again, because people are like, well, some people, first of all, are like, I can't believe you kill the cows for the horns, which is beyond ridiculous, because the horns have no value compared to the meat price.
That is very woke, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And then, I had somebody the other day asking if they were ivory. And I was like, look, if these are ivory, you know how much ivory costs? First of all, it'd be highly illegal. And secondly, I think like a tusk is like £150,000. I'm like, you think I'd be selling these for like £30-40? It doesn't make sense. But the one thing I always go back to is this idea of I can't stop the meat trade. The meat trade is it's its own entity. It's going, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So for the most part, these horns end up either in landfill or incineration. They're classed as a waste product. So why not use it? If something dies, you should use everything of it. There's a use for everything. It's more respectful that way, I think, as well.
I think so too. I was arrested a few years ago by I call it that's cafe latte politically correct person. Does that make sense?
What? Sorry.
All right, yeah. Let's say it easier than cappuccino politically correct person, meaning somebody from the city who knows everything about everything. Yeah, and I was
somebody from the city who knows everything about hunting in the middle of nowhere. But they've never been to the middle of nowhere and doesn't understand the devastation that not hunting would have on the ecosystem.
That also, but somebody who knows everything about moral,
Okay, yeah.
But I was arrested because I was using hides, yeah. And then I said, well, people eat these animals, and I was a vegetarian for more than 20 years. Now I'm not, but I was for more than 20 years, 22 years or something. I was a vegetarian, and I was at this time. But I was saying, well, people eat these animals, so I'm thinking, I'm honoring them by using the hides.
Absolutely.
This just didn't go in. It just didn't go in. So in this person's mind, it was obviously better than to let the hide go to waste. I'm like, what is this? Hello, wake up.
It's a very polarizing topic, because I think as long as you're not killing for the hide and you're not killing, that's a very different thing.
Yeah.
And I think nobody should. Most reasonable people would never support, like fur farms and that kind of thing. But if something, if a bear is killed, unfortunately, sometimes bears have to be killed. It's just a fact of life. And it's not, maybe it's not the nicest thing, but it just has to be. Humans have had such an impact on our ecosystem now that we have a responsibility where we have to try and keep things in balance. Like that's now we fucked this up so much that we have a responsibility to try and balance out everything else. And sometimes you have to kill things like bears and wolves. So therefore, rather than just letting it, you can eat bear meat, you can eat wolf meat, and you can use the hide, and you can, they can be used to keep you warm. So why not? Why just leave it in the forest because somebody might get a little bit upset about it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, really.
I agree. Yeah, I'm glad we agree. It is, and hopefully it changes. It feels like we're kind of getting less woke and coming back towards a happy medium, because there are things that you can learn from a very kind of woke liberal kind of very left-leaning thing. There are very much things that can be implemented and learned from that, but it's just when you go to extremes on any side, that's when issues really start to show themselves.
So I don't know. I wrote some more notes about this playing the markets, but I'm kind of thinking maybe we should
let's get back to the man.
No, I'm thinking maybe we should just skip it. Is it interesting, patrons?
No, let's get back to the market.
Okay, a little bit then. I think we have more interesting things to speak about.
The last thing I wanted to ask about the crow song, you mentioned that there was one about a human.
Yeah.
So how does that one go? Because
I haven't managed to find it. I just heard that it is, but it is exactly the same story. It's just that it's a man, not a crow.
So it would be killing a man and then using
the bones and the skin and all this stuff. I believe it is from the, I guess maybe you would call it county or something where I'm from, actually.
Okay.
I might have it on some hard disk somewhere, because a friend gave me 10, 15 CDs from the state radio to copy many years back, and I copied them, but now I don't know where they are, and of course I didn't manage to listen to all of them. But I can try to find it, because this guy that gave me those CDs, he's a encyclopedia.
Yeah.
He knows the 65 verses of the songs by heart.
Okay, yeah.
Many of these older songs, they have 65 verses, but he knows them. He's not like me. I'm trying to learn enough to present the song or to give the story. He knows the 65 verses, the 69 verses, he knows them. He can sing it all. He doesn't necessarily sing incredibly good, but I absolutely love it when he does it,
There's just,
man, come on.
There's just something about it.
Yeah.
So when you're making historical music, or how do you find that? How does that work? Because I assume there must be a balance of trying to be as accurate as to what you can find, and then do you try and then put your own spin on it to make it, your own thing, or do you try and stay as close to whatever source material I guess we have?
I learned many years ago. I realized that most of us we were doing the same versions of the songs, and most of us we were doing from a folk rock band from Norway from the 70s called Folk, with a QUE, Folk UE.
Ooh, okay.
They released
how very modern at the time, I bet.
Yeah. They released I think 2 or 3 albums in the 70s, and they were back for a little bit some years ago. But most of us, we were using their version or another band called Kalenda Maya. They're also, they're really interesting. One of the guys, Sverre Jensen, he made all their instruments. The second album, which is my favorite, is called Norse Ballads or something like that. And I think it's recorded in a church on these medieval kind of instruments that this guy from the band was making. But all of us, we were using from one of those two, because that was basically what we could get our hands on, Now it's easier, but we've been doing this for many years, and there wasn't anybody doing it, It was just a few people, so you didn't have all these sources to choose from. But I started at some point. I thought, it must be possible to do a little bit more. So I started. Then I started Googling, and I went into this. We call it Visa Archiv. In Norway, you call these kind of songs, you call them viser. And then I found, for example, one song that I wrote here because I think it's a cool one to mention. It's Sinclair's Vise, we call it, but it's Sinclair's song. It's about, hold on, I will get my academic thing here, so I have the dates right.
I know you have notes, which impressed me.
Yeah. No, I have my lyric thing laying here. Yeah, here it is. Because this one, it's the first time it was released, or the story is about this because it's about an actual battle that was in Otta in Norway, the 26th of August, 1612. So we know the date. You're not interested, man, huh?
No. No, you caught me out there. I was looking at my phone, but I was actually looking at our conversation earlier to make sure I stick to that.
Yeah. No, but anyways, this one is very, very interesting because a lot of these historical things, it's they are catching one part of a story, right? Somebody wrote it down at some point. This one, the stories of this actual battle was collected by a priest in 1838 and written down. But we also have the military papers describing this battle. It's the Kalmar War. I don't know what to call that in English. The Swedes hired an army of Scottish mercenaries to make trouble for Denmark, Norway. And they came to Romsdalen and they were marching down this valley called Gudbrandsdalen. And in Otta, there was a battle happening. And in the song, it's very bloody. And these Scotsmen, they're horrible. They're killing unborn. Yeah, they're killing unborn children, and they're laughing in the face of the mourning widow, and and at the end, every one of them gets killed. But of course, this wasn't true. First of all, it wasn't as many as the song says. It was way less people. We have the military papers saying, I don't remember the exact number now, but saying how many they were. And it wasn't that many. But it's a very interesting battle. There's a famous person in Norway called Pilar Guri or Trillar Guri. She's often depicted with a big lure, which I cannot say this with certainty, but I think that is wrong. Because as far as I know, a pillarhorn or a trillarhorn means you have holes to play.
Okay.
So I'm guessing she would be playing a goat horn or a cow horn with holes, but that is my guess. Yeah, so I might be mistaken. But anyways, the story says that the Scotsmen, they were coming in on the water. Here roughly 600 people. Robert J. Kvalvåg is saying that might be correct actually. The story in the song says more. But anyways, the story says that they came in there and then they heard this music coming from up in the hillside somewhere, and they thought it was amusing. So somebody on the Scots boat started playing back, so they were kind of jamming. What they didn't realize was she was standing up there in the hillside signaling to the farmers, now they're coming.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't know that. And the farmers, they had prepared, they put up big piles of logs and stones in this narrow valley where there was a river. And when the Scotsmen came there, of course, boom. So
what would they... either the arrogance of thinking that somebody was playing music to them, because they must have wondered what was going on. So it was either the arrogance of they're playing to us and they know what's happening, but it's like, we're going to be way too strong. It doesn't matter. We're going to play back. Or just the stupidity of thinking that somebody was just on the hill playing music to you.
Yeah, maybe they thought he was a shepherd, I don't know. I don't know if it's true either, but this is what the story says, I've even seen the notes that they were supposed to play.
Yeah.
But then in the song they say that everybody was killed and not a single soul were left alive to go home and blah blah, which of course is a lie, because war tactics back then you always left some survivors to go and tell don't go there,
yeah,
which was the case here as well. But I think there is still a barn called the Scots barn where they were captured, the survivors.
Yeah.
So, but this song is, I think it's an interesting one, because we know both sides of the story. We know the folk tale, which is the song, and then you have the military papers. Whether they are true or not, I cannot say, but I mean, they're a different source anyways of this song, which I think makes it interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the song is kind of inflated a little bit as well. It feels like maybe, because obviously you have to look back at a time where they don't have Netflix. You said before, like YouTube, you sometimes get lost on YouTube for hours, or we all have our vices of whether it's social media or whatever that we can just lose ourselves in. Whereas they just, we're looking at a time where that didn't exist. So your form of entertainment, for the most part, probably was these songs, and somebody around the fire or the hall playing these songs, telling these stories, and then there must be it must be very easy for the storyteller to kind of enhance the story a little bit and add little bits here and there, because we've all been there where we're telling a story to our friends, and it's just like, it could just be you and two other people and you're telling a story, and you kind of just add little details here that may or may not be true, but you just you add a little thing here, to a little je ne sais quoi, just to make it a little bit of a better story. And that must be the case.
I think also but I think it's also about strengthening the moral of the people, saying that there was this enormous troop of gruesome Scotsmen coming, and the poor farmers from the valleys here, we managed to beat them. They came with their axes on the shoulders, and they wanted to speak to the Scotsmen. And there are also some mythology things in there at the beginning of the song, that a mermaid came up from the water telling Herr Sinclair that Mr. Sinclair that he shouldn't go here, because if you go to Norway, you will never come back. Another funny thing is that Sinclair wasn't the leader of this. He was the first one to get shot.
Okay.
So, but he got the song.
Yeah. So that's almost like an extra fuck you of the, like, we warned you and now you're going to get it. You're going to be the one that gets it first. It's almost like a type of propaganda, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it is. I mean, these were poor farmers. So, but
it does. It brings that morale up, and then if it's that kind of puffing up of egos where you're telling your village or whatever, you're better than them, and if somebody comes, don't be too worried, because we last time we killed them all very easy, or whatever gods were on our side. You see it time and time again, whether it's in Scandinavian culture or any culture across the world, where like if the gods are on your side, that's kind of what you want, and you can take the victory.
But anyways, back to this song. When we started doing it, we were doing the same version as I think we have this from folk. I think most people have it from folk, because Kalenda Maya didn't do it, but I think folk did. But anyways, then I thought, and then I was looking it up, and it turns out that there were more verses that nobody was singing than there were verses that people were singing. So I thought, there's a lot of the story that is not in here. They left out the part where the ravens had enough food, which means there was a lot of killing, for example. And I was like, hey, you need to have that part in there. So the last few times we've done it, you never heard that version. I had to translate some of the verses from Danish Norwegian because I didn't find them in Norwegian. I even asked a Danish friend of mine, what does this mean? And he looked at it and he was like, I don't know. You know, and he's Danish.
It's funny you said that because I'm sure when Sean Parry was on, he was telling us about a Welsh kind of Celtic song or story that was very similar, had this idea of it was from the Raven's perspective and then being full from the day's battle and kind of having so much to eat and obviously implying how many people died.
Yeah, there's a good image of it. But anyways, then back to this song. When we did it in the beginning, we also did it, you know, pretty to the degree that we can manage to do that with our voices, you know. but then I thought, this is not right, really. There's a lot of violence in this song, and you know, it's not a pretty song. It's not a pretty story. It's quite gruesome, actually. So the last few times we've done it, you know, I'm shouting my guts out on it. It's not pretty at all. Yeah. Even at the market in Tønsberg some few years ago, because Eldrim was also doing it in a very beautiful version, you know. And then on one of the gigs that Gustav and I was doing, we invited all of Eldrim in. So they played their version of the song first, you know, a beautiful ballad version of the song. And then we totally, you know, slaughtered it after with a war beat and me just shouting, you know, everything I got. There is a video or kind of version with Espen on drums and Gustav and me. You can find it on YouTube. I hate it, but many people like it. And yeah, it shows a little bit about what we do sometimes, I guess. But that's an interesting aspect of this market thing, I think. Where do we get the stories from? How do we present the stories? That's what we wanted to show, or I wanted to show when I asked Eldrim if they could come and do their version at our gig, you know. We both played the market, so they were there. I just asked them, hey, you want to come and do it? So just to show the different ways of telling the story also. You know, they did it in a very, very beautiful way with harmonies and lyres and whatnot, you know, and we came there with a drummer or two and me shouting. Wasn't pretty at all when we did it, you know. But it's interesting to see where do we get the stories? How do we present the stories? And this, I think, is very important with this whole Viking fashion thing. You know, where do we get it from and how do we present it? I think that's interesting.
It's fascinating that probably the two ways that the song's performed, the audience probably gets such a different feel from each one, even though they're very similar about the same topic. You get a completely probably different feel from each one just based on how you guys are performing it and putting it out there and the energy.
Yeah. I don't know, Patreons, are you in there? Is it interesting what we're talking about?
usually when the chat's quiet, that means that they're very interested.
Jonas Jurvanen says you.
That's usually what happens is if it's quiet, then they're very interested and listening away. That's definitely fascinating on just how a performance and how you present something can have probably completely change the feel of a song, and I think particularly maybe for maybe a non-native speaker as well. So if I was there and I probably don't understand the words, and you're getting a lot from the music and the melodies, even though those two songs are very similar, they would probably hit me very, very differently because just by the.
I think so. But I want to mention a couple of more songs, so these more traditional ones, and tell you why I sometimes like to do them. And one of them is called Kjempene på Dovrefjell, meaning the giants at the Dovrefjell. It's also known as Sangen om de forbudte kunster, the song about the forbidden arts. And this arts, yeah.
Oh,
arts as in ARTS.
Okay, yeah, arts. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I wasn't sure whether you said arc.
No.
I wasn't.
English isn't my first
No.
language.
It's my hearing.
No, but
I just wanted to make sure I was right.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting song, because some people have even managed to link it up to different Norse gods.
Okay.
It's a song about these giants and at this mountain called Dovre, which is when you go from the Oslo area to Trondheim, you can cross this Dovre Fjell. It's a beautiful mountain. But they were brothers of Queen Ingeborg, and there are 12 of them, and they all had and here comes the forbidden arts. Because they all of them have special gifts or knowledge. One of them can still the running water with his hand. One of them can walk on the waves. One of them can walk under the earth. The last one, he was the 12th one. He's a very wise guy because he knows what's happening in other countries and all this. And I will get to why I find this very interesting. First of all, that it's also known as the song of the forbidden arts. Yeah. That tells something about when it is from. Yeah.
Okay.
This is after the political changes, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
Sounds very Christian. Exactly.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. Did you say the last one was the 12th one?
Yeah.
And am I right in thinking there were 12 apostles? Am I right in that? Or was it 13?
Yeah, also that actually. In the inner core group, I can speak about this for hours, but in the popular understanding of Christian history, there were 12. Yeah. So also that, but to me, it tells me that this song, either it's changed during the Christianing of these parts of the world, or it came after, since it is known then as this the forbidden part is in there. The first time it was released, and then it was as this the song of the forbidden arts was in Peder Syv's giant songbook, or the Song of the Giants book from 1695. And magic was always often described as the work of the devil, which of course is the propaganda of the new political regime. I
love the way how you put that.
I think it's a pretty correct way. I think
it absolutely is. I also think it's probably just a quick little footnote, I guess, is that we have to remember that any day where these were written down, we must assume that the song predates that by a fair distance. It's probably an oral tradition before it then becomes. It's not written down in the first instance.
No. From what I know, we know about these giant songs or songs about giants from the 1300s sometime. So it might be from them. It's also known from Denmark and the Faroe Islands. And of course, the Faroe Islands, it's a dance song. But this song and another song that I like to do back to back with it is called Villemann og Magnhild, Villemann and Magnhild. And this song is about the hero, Villemann. It's a long story. Most people, when they do it, if you listen to the lyrics, it doesn't mean anything. Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
When you read the full lyrics and you take more of it in, you get the story. And in the beginning, Villemann and Magnhild, his girlfriend, they're playing some kind of a board game, and she's crying. And he's asking why she's crying. And she's crying because both her sisters, they were taken by Nukken, the creature in the river. And of course, she was sad about that. And then Villeman, he's a real hero, so I think the bridge fell down or something, and they got caught by this creature in the river.
Mm-hmm.
And Villeman, the hero, is going to build a new bridge, and he's bringing all his men, and they're going to bring Magnhild safely across. But of course, when she's on the bridge, her horse falls, and she falls into the river as well.
Oh,
and then
how embarrassing! He said he's trying to build the best bridge, and it failed.
And the horse fell, you know. But anyways, then he brings out his harpe, the lyre, and he plays, and he gets them all back. So he wins over the forces of nature.
Mm-hmm.
This, if you like, mythological creature, or this creature living in the river. He wins. And to me, that's the reason I like to use these songs at the same time. If I do them, I don't do them much anymore. But it's because this is clearly a song that is before the political changes.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the mythology and all this. So, no, opposite actually. The giants are, of course, before, and this one is after, when the man is winning over nature. But anyways, they have the different. They have a different kind of angle to it, which I find very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. It does. So when you're doing, like I say, again, historical music, or as close as you can, is it more a case of, rather than trying to find maybe a specific historical song that you can follow note by note, if they even exist, like go note by note, follow the lyrics in and just recreate it? Or is it a case of that you're looking for stories from the past that you can then build your own kind of melody and tune around, and take that story and weave that into a song, and it become its own thing?
I don't know. I think I'm mostly using the melodies that are there. I cannot sing them in the old folk way because I don't manage the tonality of it. I grew up after the Beatles, as I use as my excuse. My melodies are much simpler than especially where I'm living now in Telemark. I mean, when you listen to the tonality of the folk songs from here, I cannot do it.
Okay.
It's totally alien to people that grew up after the Beatles, because the tonality for us, it's much simpler, it's much easier than modern melodies, than the old melodies. They have some jumps in there that I don't even try,
Really?
Yeah, I'm just saying I grew up after the Beatles, which is the truth, So that's
fascinating.
No.
So is there? I guess from stuck in his modern perspective, is there like sheet music that you can just follow? Like, so how do you construct the melodies? How do we get, like, is it written down in the same way and legible to somebody who understands music today? Like, how does that work?
Now, all of these you can find modern notes for, because they're all fairly new, the writings of them,
So how is that? Do we know how that's constructed? Is it just somebody who studies it then kind of puts it into modern music, or is it again passed down through time?
I think this crow song again and Kråkevisa, they have names, so I don't remember now. I should have written this down, but as I told you, we'll get into that later. I've been feeling a bit weird lately, so I've been a little bit all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I need to write this down, and of course I forgot, because they know who made this version that most of us know. They know who made it, and they know who she got it from.
Okay.
So here they have at least a couple of sources of where the popular version of the song, the most popular version of the song here in Norway at least, came from. Mm-hmm. But I think first they wonder, and then somebody You know, in Germany, you have the Grimm brothers. In Norway, you have Asbjørnsen and Moe, and they were collecting fairy tales and stories and also words and expressions. You know, they were a part of constructing this Neo-Norwegian language. In Norway, we had 2 written languages, and none of them are really written language or spoken languages. People have learnt them. But the bokmål, which is the state language, is a deviation. Is that what you call it? From the Danish Norwegian?
Yes.
Or it's, a version of the Danish Norwegian. And then, as far as I've understood it, this Neo-Norwegian was kind of a protest, or to keep the Norwegian-ness in the Norwegian language. Who was that? Is a question we should look at. Can you see that? Who was that Norwegian?
So who was the Norwegian that collected the folk tales?
Asbjørnsen and Moe. I can. Do I have something to write with here? I can write it down and show on the screen, maybe. But
no, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, Alisa Nielsen wrote it. Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, patrons. It's good that you're here. But all of these things, I think, are interesting when you're, and I think this comes into whatever kind of what do you call it? I don't like the word reenactment. But you know, when we're sharing parts of history, whether you do music or you do this or you do that, I think all these things that we have spoken about now, to me at least, they're interesting. Where do we get it from? How do we present it? How much truth might be in there? You know, here comes that Sinclair song again as an interesting one, where we have both the official papers and the folk story from the people of the valleys where this was happening. I think this is a very interesting part about this, you know. How do we put it forth? You know, it's the same with this Vikings series, you know. A lot of people were protesting that it's not historically correct. And that is true, but there are also direct references to written sources. I remember I fell off after I lost the 2 last seasons or something of it. You know, it wasn't. I liked it when we were following Ragnar and Lagerta.
I agree.
That. But there are direct references to Ibn Fadlan, for example, this Arab guy that was writing contemporarily about it. And the guy who made the series said, well, you know, I have so and so many million viewers, so I don't care about a few nerds criticizing. But to me, that's an interesting part about this whole thing.
Yes, it is. It's fascinating because and I was going to ask you this anyway, about how important is it for you to keep as accurate as possible and stick to, like you said, the truth. And again, that's a very loose term, the truth, because it's by what source you can check, and different sources will have different truths. So again, it's not a finite thing that you can say this is exactly what it is. So again, like, how important is it for you to stick to that in your music? But then I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about with the Vikings TV show about the payoff of putting these things in there, but then also making it an entertainment show that's going to draw in millions of viewers and bring them into this culture and into this kind of area that they may then find bands like yourself and follow other bands and hopefully come to companies like me and, you know, get involved in it from TV shows. Because for the most part, if it's 100% accurate, it's particularly when you're portraying like the lives of Vikings, it's going to be 90% fucking farming.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm thinking one thing I learned, and that took us a few years actually. And I've seen it. I think a very good example of that is the warriors at these Viking markets. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of fighting shows over the years, and I've kind of lost interest because I've seen so many of them.
Okay.
But some of the, and it's like we used to do in the day, back in the day, basically because we were shy, we were nervous, so we did it for ourselves more than for the audience. But then I realized that it doesn't mean anything unless we are entertaining.
Yeah.
People want bread and circus. That's why they bring their family to the market. They want to be entertained. And I've seen really good warriors making hilarious shows. The best groups that there are in the fighting world, the Jomsvikings Vikings and these, and I've been rolling around on the grass in laughter because it's totally hilarious. But at the same time, they're good fighters. They're showing the techniques and the weapons and all this stuff, but it's entertaining. And then you can see another group, and they're
it has to be.
Yeah, and then you see another fighting group, and they don't make sound. They don't fall in a extravagant way when they get killed or something like that, and it very easily gets boring. And we need to remember that we are entertainers. That's what we are.
That's it. It's, you have to find this balance, because it's, you could do everything 100% accurate, and then you may have an audience of 5 people, the real hardcore extremists that want this.
Yeah,
there is definitely an audience there for people who want like 100% accurate, but it's much smaller, it's much more niche, and you can cater to them, but you're only going to those people who are already interested. But if you put a little bit of pizzazz on it, a little bit of jazz hands, and send it a little bit more entertaining, you can still put little nuggets of historical accuracy in there, but you're going to hit a much wider audience and bring so many more people into this. And your audience might be 500 people rather than 5. And it's like, which one's more fun?
Yeah, then you get bread on the table.
Well, that's the most important thing.
And also by reaching those 500, maybe some of those people then get genuinely interested, and they go home and they search for more, and then they look for the books and the academic stuff and whatever sources there are.
They find the Nordic Mythology podcast,
for example, and then I'm thinking, well, okay, so then maybe we were, by doing it entertaining, maybe we are spreading more accurate historic knowledge that way than by doing it only for the 5 people that are in the first place interested.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's 100% argument to be made, and one that I would agree with, because like you say, if you make it a little bit more entertaining, you get an audience of 500 people, but then 10% of those do further reading, then you still got 50 people who are deeper involved. That's much better than the 5 people who are already in. And I think it's worth it. I find it frustrating when people complain about popular culture. That you get games like the new God of War Ragnarok game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They're never going to be 100% accurate. But if they're still taking steps to as long as it's not disrespectful to the point where it's kind of like, we've done no research, we've done no interest, and it's this caricature portrayal of the culture, then as long as they're taking steps to be somewhat accurate and entertaining, then have at it. Bring people, the more it brings more people in. That's my opinion anyway.
That's mine as well. And there we reach, that's another point that I would like to speak about before we get lost and end up speaking only about these 4 songs.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking the potential, we were touching that on the last podcast as well. The potential in this whole fashion thing. Sorry for using that, but that's what it is.
It is.
So, but the potential in it is that hopefully, and I know this is true, some people are through this, they're going to get a deeper connection to Mother Earth, the multiverse, themselves, to go deeper inside themselves. And I think this is very important now. We are living in a world that is happening, everything is very fast. A lot of the values are very, they're shallow, it's surface stuff. It's how you look and this and that, there's a very little, there's very little of it that is real in any way, and I'm thinking this is the potential in this, that, and I know it's happening through the Blot ceremony, for example, at Midgardsblot that we spoke about a lot the last time. It brings a lot of people closer to themselves. And that, I think, for me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I'm doing this. That is why Gustav and I was working so closely together for so many years. Gustav Holberg, that was my main, working partner for many, many years. We've always done it because we know it works. The music
and
is the tool.
You have to go along with times as well. You have to be able to adapt and change, because you're never going to change the way that modern culture goes, the direction it goes in. So you have to find your way to adapt and fit into that to survive. Otherwise you get forgetting, and then you've got no audience and you've got no bread for the table. So you have to I think you said before, like how you were very new to social media, or it wasn't something you used very often, but it's a tool that's there that you have to use, and to grow particular musicians, it's for all its evils, it's not going anywhere. So you have to adapt and use it to then progress, and then once you've got a platform, you can point it in whatever direction you kind of want to.
So I'm not very good at that, I didn't post anything during the recording of the new album because I thought there's a saying in Norwegian, du skal ikke selge skinnet før bjørnen er skutt. That means you shouldn't sell the hide before the bear is shot. I didn't want to post videos before it was done. So I didn't post anything for the 3 years plus it took me to make this. I didn't post anything, which is, I guess, commercially not a very smart move. But then again, I had something to present when I came out with it. And,
one thing I love is the differences in sayings. They're like from different countries to different cultures. Like the sayings that you have, I think we spoke about this on the podcast before with Amelia Lorentzen. How you said, you can't have the hide before the bear is shot. And for as a British person, ours is don't count your eggs before they've hatched.
Yeah.
Or don't count your chickens before they've hatched. I find it so fascinating, these different phrases that you get geographically and culturally. They really are so fascinating to me.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of truth to it too. I've been doing, as I said, music for many, many years, and I've been a part of a whole lot of projects that we spoke about before we did them, and they never happened,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, you've got to back up what you say again with the coconut bikini.
Yeah.
That I've said it and it is coming. I know it's been put off a long time, but I think I said next episode. I've got it. It's ready to go. It's just one of those things that, but you've got to, if you say something, you have to do it. And life gets in the way. Sometimes it's delayed, but you've got to do what you say. So, but equally, I think there's probably something to be said about putting things into the universe then sometimes makes you have to do them. on the flip side of that, maybe if you post it, then you're kind of like, I'm now accountable for that.
Yeah, in a way. Hey, Patreons and whoever is watching this later, if we were going to speak about the new album, and I would love to do that, but
let's do it.
No, I want to pick up on what you were saying there. So if we don't get there, can at least some of you, can you either buy the album and read the lyrics and see what it's about?
No, we'll get there.
Go on Bandcamp, and on Bandcamp you get the lyrics in 4 different languages. In case we don't get there, because we're talking about life getting in the way. And
we're getting there.
Yeah,
I've got nowhere to be. We're getting there.
Okay. I hope you're patient also, patrons down there. Because I think this is more important to talk about. This life gets in the way. That's more important than me talking about the record, especially now. This time of the year.
Do you want to put a pin in this, and let's talk about the record and come back to this, and we'll finish on.
No, we'll talk about this, and then we see if we get to the record. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrons, do you agree?
I'm sure. Let's do it that way. We'll talk about this, and then we'll
they
circle
agree.
back.
Because I'm thinking, especially this time of the year, in the northern hemisphere, it's dark, which means go in. You cannot run away from yourself by running out in the field or go for a long swim. Okay, you can do ice bathing, which is great. But there are certain restrictions which are kind of forcing us and giving us the gift also of the opportunity of going further in, which I think is very, very important. But this time of the year is for many people very, very hard. Many people are struggling, whether the celebration is Yule or Christmas or simple consumerism or whatever people celebrate at this time of the year. There's a lot of expectations, and everywhere you look, they promote this happiness. Everybody is happy. Everybody is happy. Everything is happiness, happiness.
You feel like you have to. Again, it's a British saying, like keeping up with the Joneses. It's like you feel like you've got to keep up with everyone else. Everyone else is happy. You have to be there also, even if you're not, and sometimes you're not.
And how does that make you feel then? Especially now when everything is about the happiness and you don't feel it. It's going to make you feel even worse because you're looking around you and everybody is so incredibly happy. They might not be it, but that's what you see on the social media, in all the commercials, on the TV programs. Everybody's happy. And you're not.
Well, again, I think we've discussed that on here a few times about how on social media, I think it's probably been a while since we've mentioned this, and it's a point that never gets old or never dies. That you can't take what you see on social media as the be all and end all and the truth, because people only ever post their good moments. It's very rare that you find an account that's balanced in good and bad. Most people, they're only posting the best times in their lives, the times that they're happy, the times they're out having fun, they're enjoying. And even then, those posts in some way tend to be manipulated. The angle is good. They've had this, the caption that goes with it's inflated. So it's all this kind of very rose-tinted vision of what their life is or what their day was or what their event was. So you have to be very careful of looking at that and taking that and then comparing it to your life, because you're comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah, and when you look at the smiles, they're not real. Look in the eyes of all these happy faces, and you see they're not even there. Which makes it even worse when you wake up and you don't feel good. I had and this is why I asked the patrons and stuff if we can go deep. I had a message a little while ago. A colleague of mine from I do stagehand work and stuff, or maybe you don't know, but now you know. And a colleague of mine, she decided to leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a few weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
Young person, very nice. When I got the message, my first thought was, I mean, we didn't know each other that well, but we always had a good connection. When we worked together, it was always nice. And but I thought sometimes I was looking at her and I thought, you're angry. There's so much anger in your eyes. And then I realized when I got the message that she had decided to leave, I realized that, well, okay, there was probably anger there. But there was also a whole lot of frustration and sadness and desperation. And she was fighting demons that most of us didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up leaving by her own hands,
You can't tell what anybody's thinking just by looking at them. I mean, if we're going deep, we're going deep. It's no surprise to anybody that listens to this show that I'd lost somebody in the same way. Somebody that I spent a big portion of my life with. She made the same decision, and you have to respect their choice. And it's always a tough thing. It's a tough thing to kind of understand and get your head around. But outwardly, this person was always very happy, cheerful, and put on this perfect mask that nobody other than probably me would ever know that there were these demons behind and that they were lurking there and they were kind of like pulling on these strings daily and causing these issues. So you can never judge somebody just by looking at how they are in public as to what goes on beneath the surface. And I think you mentioned before how important it is that we are kind. I think it was before the show you mentioned like just how important it is we are kind to each other, and just take moments to maybe just ask how people are, because you don't know. You really don't know how people are beneath the surface.
But not only asking, do we listen when we ask? I've felt shitty, to say it blunt, but I've been struggling. And I know several times I met people on the street. I used to live in Oslo for many years, and I was walking down the street and I was, maybe I wasn't feeling that well. And I met somebody and they asked, how are you? And if you open your mouth and you're about to say, well, actually, oh shit, I have to catch the tram.
Mm.
It's just a saying. Are we asking because we want to know? Am I saying, Daniel, how are you? Because I'm genuinely interested in your well-being and how you're doing? Or am I asking just because I've been told to say it?
We're almost trained. We're trained into that. It's, hi, how are you? Let's get on with. It's almost like a filler question. Hi, how are you? You're expected, and I'm probably guilty of this as well. You say, hi, you okay? How are you? And you expect the response to be, yeah, I'm fine. And then you go, yeah, I'm okay. And then you move on to whatever it is. That's like the formality that we go through this thing of like this. It's almost like a dance of like, hi, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. You? Yeah, I'm good. And then it's on. It's not, it's very superficial. It's very rare that you have the real kind of sit down conversation. And I think it's probably something that I've learned a lot from doing the podcast. Me and Mateus, we've had, I said this to Mateus the other day, like he's probably the person I speak to the most of anybody maybe ever. And I mean like really speak to. Obviously, like I've got friends and family that I do, but like we've had hours and hours of these podcasts where we just sit and there's no distractions. We're not on our phones. We're not doing anything. And yeah, we have guests on as well, but we're locked in to this conversation for an hour and a half. And I wonder how many people listen to this the last time they did that, where it was a conversation where you are stuck and this is what you're doing. and we've been talking now for, well, we're probably coming close to an hour and a half, and it's like there's no distractions. It's this conversation between two people, and that just doesn't happen anymore. Because how often are you out with friends or out with family and the phone comes up, or you sit down even in a pub and the first thing that happens is the phone goes on the table in front of you, and as soon as it lights up, it's got to check this, got to do this. Whereas with these podcasts, like, it doesn't matter what's happening in the world. I'm locked into this.
Yeah. And I think we have a golden opportunity now, And I think you have your friend. I have my friend now with a recent case. I also have. It's not the first time I'm experiencing friends leaving by their own hand, So I'm thinking, at least we can honor their memory in trying to put a little bit of focus on this, Are we there for each other? Are we checking in on each other? Do we smile to the people behind the counter in the store? Do we say thank you to the bus driver? All these little things.
Yeah, and it's the little things that they take nothing to do, but they literally might make that person's day. Like they may, and it's very sad to think of, because I hope that everybody listening to this podcast has a huge family network, has a huge friend network, and this Christmas they're going to see everybody that they love and have an amazing times. But unfortunately, and it's heartbreaking to think of, that there will be people that sometimes you interact with on a day where you are the only person that they interact with on that day. And it's a very sad thought. It's heartbreaking. I've got tears in my eyes just thinking about it, because it is such a sad thing, but it is the truth. So maybe go about your day and interact with people thinking that maybe you're the only person they're going to interact with today. So if you can leave a positive stamp on them or a positive interaction, then that's going to pick them up for that day, because that's all they've got. You may speak to 50 people that day, but for them, it's like, I had this one interaction with this one person in the supermarket, and it really fucking made my day because they were very nice to me. And it's not hard to do. It's really not.
No, it's not at all. One good example, what's his name? Robin Williams, the comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he made millions of people laugh, and he ended his life by his own hands.
Mm-hmm.
He made millions of people laugh. I've been accused several times of being shallow because I speak a lot about the light. I do that with Folke, and I do that also on a private basis. I speak a lot about the light. But the brighter the light, the darker the shadow, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I do that because I've been places I don't want others to go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. It's when I was young, I used to have a very narrow mind about this. I was young. I had a very narrow mind that it was a very selfish kind of thing to happen, and it was, like, just how could anybody ever do that? And then as you grow older and you soften and you have life experiences, you realize that it's not black and white. It's not that simple. There are a lot of different things that go into it. And, I'm on the end of being kind of left behind by somebody that made this decision. And yeah, it fucking sucks. It sucks, because it's something that torments me probably every day, of thinking of things that I could do differently, or decisions I could have made, or could I have done this? And it doesn't just end with me. That web spreads to everybody that these people have interactions with. It spreads out to, like, my friend network. All those people have these little feelings of, like, could I have done something? Could I have done this? If I'd have sent a message here, would it have made a difference? So it's a very complex thing where it affects everybody around them. But equally, I live my life by a perspective of you're the owner of your own body and yourself, and you have the right to decide whatever you want to do with your body. And I I very much believe that. So you also have to have a respect for people who chooses, and I personally would never understand it. It's not something that I would do, but you also have to respect, like, this is your choice in your life, and this is the path you've decided to go down, and it's heartbreaking for those behind. And I would never want anybody to be in the position of being left behind by somebody that makes this choice. But equally, there is that kind of perspective that I never had when I was younger, of like, you have to be free to make your own choices, and sometimes people live with, I've seen it firsthand. People live with this torment, but I think it's very easy for people to think that it's a 1 second decision, or it's something that happens like that. Like something happens and people who make this choice just go, no, that's it. I'm out of here. And it's not. And living with somebody that was of that mindset, that this was there, in my case, for 16 years, underneath, boiling and growing and never quite being handled, and it would disappear for a year, 2 years, but then it would come back and rear its head and just be kind of simmering beneath the surface. And that's what you don't see in the most part. It's not a quick decision, and I think it's very rarely is something that somebody takes lightly. It's something that usually has been it's been tormenting them for decades in some cases, and it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. It's hard to understand if you've never been there as well.
Yeah. So, but at least then we can honor their memory by, trying to be there for the people that are still here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always manage. Absolutely not. I have sides that you don't want to meet, man.
I absolutely, like, it's easy for me to sit here and preach and say be kind to everyone, but I have times where the temper gets the better of me, like especially like if I'm driving and somebody does something and I snap back, and we'll have an argument, and then after I'm just like, why? It's not important. So none of us are perfect, but at least the more we kind of can get that into that mindset of just trying to be kind to each other, then we can take those steps to more often than not, hopefully.
Yeah. I told you I might have a couple of surprises. Are you ready for one of them?
Sure.
I think this might be, I don't know if I'll manage, and bear with me if I don't. There is a saying that is very known. I think it goes around in different versions around most of the world. And it says something like, it's not how far you fall, it's how you land. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, it's about how we get back up, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how far you fall or how you land. Do you manage to get up? That's the thing, And
yes, life is a series of getting back up. And again, going back to social media, it's easy to look at people and go, well, their life's so easy. Yeah. But most people are suffering from the same things. Life is just a series of getting knocked the fuck down, and then you have to just find some way to get back up. And sometimes it's hard, but you have to just do it. You have to just get back up and keep going. And you're going to get knocked down again, but you just have to keep going.
Excuse me, people. But, can I sing a song?
Please do. Please, let's do this. Please sing us a song, and then we will wrap up the main show, and then we will jump into the Q&A after and let the patrons ask some questions. Again,
you're getting impatient now. I'm not done, man.
No, but I think it would be a nice note to end on the end on the song, and then we can carry this on on the Q&A and the Patreon little episode. Again, maybe it teases some people over to come join us on Patreon and listen to the extra bit.
Yeah. Then because I said I might have a couple of surprises, and I do. So
okay, you got a couple of songs, or
yep.
Do you want to make? How many have you got? Two. Okay. Do you want to do them both?
I can, if people want.
Yeah, absolutely, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Do both, and then we'll wrap up this, and then we'll jump on there, and we'll answer some questions. I'm sure there's plenty buzzing around.
Yeah, but then the question is, I tried to prepare, but I don't know. Can you read this?
I can, but we will. I mean, we can put the lyrics in the show notes as well, or make a separate folder for them and let people get those lyrics.
Yeah. So, but patrons, please be with us. Should I try and hold the note there so you can see the English translation while I sing, or should I just sing it in Norwegian? It makes more sense if you know what I'm singing about.
If you can hold it,
well, I will try. Okay.
No. Actually, I think you should just sing it. I think tone, and I think the message always comes through with this kind of thing. And then we'll put the lyrics up, and people can then re-listen and follow along with the lyrics maybe after. But I think in the moment, let's just get lost in the moment.
Yeah, and these are from after the new album, so I have demos. This first one, the demo is quite good, but Alyssa's got a point. When apart from the patrons, they will see it when they watch the podcast. Yeah, if you put it up there. But the first one, it's about getting back up, I guess. It's called The World of Ruins in English. Mm-hmm. Might not sound pretty, but that's not the point either right now. I think the message is: Jeg dyrka mine nederlag, jeg slikka mine sår, helt til jeg forsto at veien skapes mens vi går. Det finnes ingen tap, alt kan bli til en ny start. Når natta som mørkest kommer morgen ganske snart igjen. Verden av ruiner kan vi bygge oss et slott ved å legge stein på steina. Det som har forgått av en verden i ruiner kan vi skape noe flott. Vi kan bygge noe nytt der det gamle har stått. Jeg trengte et fall for å reise meg og stå. Jeg trengte å stoppe for å begynne å gå. Jeg følte meg knust, satte bitene sammen. Bildet nytt i den samme rammen. I en verden av ruiner kan vi bygge oss et slott ved å legge stein på steina. Det som har forgått av en verden i ruiner kan vi skape noe flott. Vi kan bygge noe nytt der det gamle har stått. Vi kan bygge noe nytt der det gamle har stått. That one.
Wow. You just get a feeling from it. I don't understand the words, but it's there's a reason why I'm wiping my eyes, put it that way.
In a world of ruins, we can build ourselves a castle by laying stone upon stone of what has passed. Over a world of ruins, we can create something great. We can build something new where the old once stood. That's the chorus. And
it's so important to remember that no matter what the hard times are, you can build something from it. There's a teachable moment in the ruins. There's a teachable moment that you can then use to fertilize new ground and build something beautiful from that. And in the darkness, whilst you're in there, it's so difficult to see it and find it, but it is there. And sometimes it takes months, 2 months, 6 months, a year of like stepping back in clarity to then see what they are. But there is always something you can learn and take forward and keep going.
Yeah. So I thought, because yesterday when I was trying to prepare for this, I got this, well, maybe I should sing those 2 songs. And then I thought, maybe I need to find some kind of a context to put it in and all this. And then I was walking to the shop, as I told you earlier today, and for the patrons, that's 8 kilometers one way, so you get to think a little bit, because you walk there and then you walk back. And then I thought, well, maybe I should just accept that maybe somebody needs to hear this. Maybe I should.
They do.
Maybe I shouldn't try to context it in any ways. But,
it's an important conversation to have, and again, we didn't speak about this before, and you don't know that much about my personal circumstances and the kind of similarities are there very much, and it is something I feel very passionate about, and try to have these very open conversations, because not everybody does. Not everybody's willing to have these deep conversations because they shy away or they're worried about getting upset or having the tough talks. So it's important. It's so important to have these and to let people know that you're not alone in how you feel, and there's millions of people who feel just like you.
Yeah, exactly. And the next one is I haven't even, I don't know if it's even done. I don't know. Maybe it's just stupid. I asked Audun needed to hear it. Thank you, Audun. I hope it does you well. This next one, I asked my brother Darren from over in America. I sent him English version of it, and I asked him, can I do this? And he said it's important that I do it, so I hope I have the guts to do it. And maybe you guys tell me something about it also. I thought when these words came, I thought it's about the pitfalls, so walking the spiritual path and getting high on yourself and blah, blah, blah. But maybe it's just about, I'm there too sometimes, I've been there and you've been there. We've all been there. We're all there sometimes, It's called I mirror in the water. In English, maybe it's more correct to say I reflect in the water, but I like I mirror in the water. I speiler meg I vannet.
Mirror works fine.
Yeah. So let's try. This is going to be a world premiere. Then I've never sung the whole song for anybody. So we'll see if I manage. Jeg speiler meg I vannet noen ganger med et smil, andre ganger det mer med tvil. Når mine tanker mørke som vinternatt, da det vanskelig å stå. Selv når jeg gir mitt beste, kan jeg feile med glans, men det deler av livets dans. Alle valg jeg har gjort, de har ført meg hit til denne plassen på livets vei. Jeg ikke bedre enn andre, ikke det grann, men jeg trodde nok det en gang. Ja, jeg trodde nok det en gang. Om jeg føler meg ensom, får jeg selskap av alle feila fra I går. Når jeg går I dybden, ser I ut som svære arr og åpne sår. Regnskapets time, kan jeg ligge dårlig an, men jeg skal gjøre opp så godt jeg kan. Når det stormer på havet, det rolig på bånd, og jeg jobber for å leve sånn. Jeg jobber for å leve sånn. Jeg ikke bedre enn andre, ikke det gram, men jeg trodde nok det en gang. Jeg ikke bedre enn andre, ikke det gram, men jeg trodde det en gang. Ja, jeg ser jeg trodde det en gang. 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 Ja.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for listening.
Of course. Absolutely beautiful.
The lyrics, it's a very quick translation, but the chorus is, I'm not better than others, not at all, but I probably once thought so.
Mm-hmm. We've all probably been there, and we've all been humbled by something. Something comes along and knocks us off our perch, and sometimes we all need it.
Thank you for the feedback, people.
Sometimes it just takes a reset. Sometimes we all need a reset, just to look back and kind of evaluate our paths and how we act and how we behave and how we treat others. Sometimes we need that reset to kind of go, you know what, I need to be a little bit better.
Exactly. A little bit more kindness, you know.
Can never be too much kindness.
No. Wow. I wasn't kidding. No, I wasn't.
Who wasn't kidding about going deep? No. Okay, let's wrap up the main show and let's do a Q&A where we can jump in with the patrons and answer some questions, because I'm sure they're gonna have a bunch for us after this marathon of an episode.
Then people, please, if some of you bother listening to the album and preferably reading also the lyrics, I would be very grateful for that.
Yeah,
maybe it also brings bread on the table.
please do. Please go buy the album, buy everything that Benny creates. Where's the best place to buy it for you? Obviously, I assume streaming it helps, but I bet buying a physical copy helps even more.
Yeah, then it's the Grimfrost website is the only place you get the physical CD, I think. And then on Bandcamp is also a good option. Also, this I'd like to say before we close it. Yeah, I managed to get the lyrics printed in 4 languages. I sing them in Norwegian. You get them in English, German, and Spanish. Mm-hmm. And that's in the CD and on Bandcamp. You don't get that on the other streaming things. Mm-hmm. So.
Social media, where can people follow you?
It's Facebook. I also made this Instagram thing. I'm not good at using it, but I posted about this.
Yes,
I shared your post yesterday or something.
You did. Is that just Benny Bråten?
Yeah, and Folke Bortafor Nordavind. On Instagram, it's I think you find it on Folke Bortafor. Look at my shirt, people, if it's difficult.
Yes, I was going to say, can you slow
read
down?
It there?
I can, yes. We'll put it in the show notes. But are you able to just say the name slower? Because Norwegian speaks so fast.
Yeah. I can say it the way I say it, and then I can say it in this Danish Norwegian, this bokmål after.
Yeah.
Folke Bortafor Nordavind. That's almost bokmål, actually. Folket bortafor nordavind, the people beyond the north wind.
Wow. Perfect. Again, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star rating, a positive review wherever you get your podcast. Obviously, you can follow Matthias over at Matthias Nordvig. You can follow me, Daniel _Farrand1 on Instagram. Obviously, please support Horns of Odin. It's just at Horns of Odin. And you can find everything we do with the podcast, just Nordic Mythology podcast, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. It's the same kind of name. You're going to find it. Our Facebook group is growing. I think we just hit 3,000 members on there. So yeah, jump on there. There's a bunch of different memes and that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. Is the Facebook group, to be honest. So yeah, if you can, and again, obviously the best way the way that helps us the most is Patreon. If you can support on there, like I said, the lowest level is £4 a month. It's like buying me a taste of coffee a month cheaper than that, and you're gonna get these extra bonus Q&A episodes with the guests where you're going to get the chance to either ask your own question or listen to the other patrons asking their questions, which will always be a lot of fun. So yeah, Benny, let's wrap this up and go and answer some questions.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much.